Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be interacting with some content about how married couples interact with their parents. So let's take a look.
The moment you say I do, you have no more responsibility between you and your parents.
Now he'll get into it more. That seems like a giant statement. No more responsibility between you and your parents. Let's see how this unfolds.
The Bible says when you get married, leave, cleave, become one. Leave, cleave, become one. Leave who? Mother and father. Guess what? The moment you say I do, you have no more responsibility between you and your parents. Wait a minute, did you say none? I said zero. I said zero. Oh, but my mom wants me to come home for holidays. I don't care what she wants. You're not responsible for meeting her wants. Well, she'll get angry. You're not responsible for her anger. Where's her anger? It's in her circle. Now, can you choose to go home? Absolutely. But if you make her responsible for your choices, what are you giving her? Authority and power to control you.
So the interesting thing about this video is largely the way that he applies the big picture statement that he made, I think is very, very good and very healthy. I think that the big picture statement is very overstated. But it seems like in his circle, what he's looking at is two things. First of all, married couples who are in an unhealthy way still sort of enmeshed with their parents, or feeling like they need to follow what their parents say, or not differentiating enough to have their own family as husband and wife, and to say, all right, we're making our own decisions and we're forming our own family unit. And then on the other side, where he ended was just talking about the whole idea of when we do this, and this doesn't just happen with parents, but when we do this with someone else, we end up sort of putting them on the hook for decisions that we've made instead of taking responsibility for decisions that we've made. And this can be as simple as like some of the phrases that we use where we say like, this person made me angry. We all kind of know what that means, but even the way that we say that sort of puts the other person in the position where it's like, hey, what could I do? They made me angry, and so therefore I did this thing. We still need to take responsibility for our actions. And so you might be a married couple and you might have parents who have different demands, or you might have parents who are, you might have sort of like your parents are very critical of your wife or of your husband. And so there's complications going on there. You do need to be responsible for your own actions in this situation. And you also do need to prioritize your spouse over your parents. And it's interesting because the culture, and this is where I think that there might be a little bit of a mistake in how he's presenting this. In most cultures throughout human history, including the cultures to which the Bible originally came, the idea of family ties was so incredible. It was so incredibly significant. The idea that we now have people moving away from their parents and not living near their parents, it was almost unthinkable. And there are still many cultures in the world where it's almost unthinkable. You have sort of a clan and you stay together. And so the way that this worked out in most of the cultures, for the Jews and for others who were receiving this, was not that they were saying, well, now we're going to move over here and we're not going to really interact with our parents. They were still largely interacting with their parents all the time, deeply connected to them, but there needed to be a priority. And so for the husband in this situation, there needed to be a priority of him saying, I am responsible for my wife. I'm not as responsible to my parents. I need to prioritize her over them. And the same for the wife, to say like, all right, I'm no longer taking my cues from mom and dad, and everything that they say is not something that I need to do. I'm in this with my husband and we're in this together. And I think that is significant. And for some people, that is very challenging to do. But where I think that he goes wrong on this is that we absolutely still do have a responsibility to our parents. And the most obvious thing that goes throughout the scriptures is the idea of caring for aging parents. In fact, there's an often quoted passage, 1 Timothy chapter 5, that talks about if a man doesn't care for his family and especially the members of his own household, he's worse than an unbeliever. And people sometimes take that to sort of be like if a man doesn't provide for his wife and children. But actually, the context of that is adults taking care of their widowed mothers. saying if you're not taking care of your widowed mother, you're worse than an unbeliever. And so that's financial and then other care. So there absolutely is. In fact, Jesus had a problem with something that the Pharisees were doing, where in the Gospels he brought up that they found a workaround where they sort of like devoted money to God so that they didn't have to support their aging parents, and he called them out on that. So where he's wrong is that we absolutely do still have a responsibility to honor our parents, and that honor also comes along helping them as they age as far as care and sometimes financial provision. Sometimes the finances aren't needed, but just of caring for them in those ways. But he's absolutely right that we need to differentiate. We need to say this is a new family. We formed a new unit. We're going to joyfully still have our parents in our lives as long as there's a healthy way to do that. But we are a new family unit, and we are going to take responsible for our decisions instead of being at the beck and call of our parents, and also instead of feeling like their actions dictate how we have to respond. And so we avoid taking adult responsibility for the decisions that we're making for our family.